Hey guys, Aussie Share Trader back. Okay, now as promised, I'm going to talk today about an issue that I had. What are we now? It's the 18th of September. I reckon this was late June. Late June, this all come on. Now, I sold my business in early April. I know I've said that quite a few times now, but just in case you've never seen this channel before, I'll say it again. April 6th, I got out of my business, and I guess you would say I retired, would be the word. I'm 44 years of age. Everything in my life was spot on, just how I wanted it. My family was great, my marriage, finances, health, just as my definition of success was all those things sort of right, and they were. And I thought now would be a great time to give up work and maybe do something else. And the world was my oyster, basically. I could have really done anything I wanted, and that was great. My dream was to wake up one Monday morning, and I told most people I know, I said this, I just want to wake up one Monday morning and have nothing to do. No one's calling me, no one's thinking about me. It was just complete and utter relaxation. My mind didn't have to do anything. That was what I wanted. And when I was working hard as a mortgage broker, some long hours there, some long days, some long weeks, that was my dream, and I got it. I had nothing to do basically, and I was waking up and my mind was completely clear, and I had the days to do whatever I wanted to do. My dream, yeah. And anyway, so that was April 6th. The first month was great. I went on a couple of holidays. I went to Sydney with a mate. I went to Bali with a few mates. And I was just living the dream. It was just my perfect life, basically. Then, so that was April, May. I went on those two holidays. Then June, I just started to get a little. I guess it wasn't really depressed. I know I used that word before, but I don't think it was depression. I think I started to feel a little anxious, and I really don't know why. That's the I guess the confusing thing for me. What was I anxious about? I had nothing to be anxious about. But looking back now, I think my problem was I had far too much time on my hands. And when you're sitting there and you're thinking, and you've got time to think, your mind can just run away with you. And I just started playing over these really worst case scenarios in my head. It was like everything in my life is great, but what if? And I thought, wouldn't that just be right? Everything's perfect, but if this happened, how would I cope? And I started, sorry, not you, but I started playing these worst case scenarios in my head, which is something I've never really done before. But I just had so much time. My mind was just looking for something to do, I think. And for me, it just seemed to be, I started to think of my health. I thought, well, what happened if I got sick? And these things start to manifest themselves. So I started to get some numbness in my hands, and then from there it just sort of spun out of control. So that meant I started going to the doctor, and for someone who very rarely goes to the doctor, like refuses to take drugs, even aspirin and that, I just don't take anything, and I've been relatively healthy, fortunately, my whole life. So it just started to. I've got to let the cat out. One moment. And back. Yeah, it just started to sort of take on a life of its own, and I you know, the more symptoms I had, the more anxious I got, which meant the more symptoms I had. And yeah, basically hypochondria or health anxiety, they call it. That's what happened to me. And like I say, it's really embarrassing now to say it, but it's the truth. So yeah, for someone who didn't take any medication, just refused to my whole life pretty much, I always thought if something was wrong, I'll do the right thing to my body and get things fixed naturally. But I went to the doctor in probably a 3-week period. I would have gone to the doctor at least half a dozen times, which is probably how many times I would go in maybe a 5-year period. So I was there, a couple of times a week, out the doc with all these stresses that I had going on. Fortunately, my doctor was fantastic. He's been my doctor for a long time. He was actually a client of mine when I was a mortgage broker, and I was a client of his as a doctor. So yeah, he was great for me, and I had to go through all these tests, even though he was quite sure there was nothing wrong with me. He sort of humoured me and let me go for a brain scan, and I was having blood tests and all that sort of stuff. And anyway, after a while, I was sort of through his help and just through the weight of the evidence, I convinced myself there was nothing wrong with me, and I started to slowly come out of that funk. Now, I called it, when I spoke of it just briefly in previous videos, I've called it midlife crisis, and I guess that's a fairly cute name for it. But going through it at the time, the anxiety that I felt was really overwhelming, and I was doing some weird stuff that just felt weird to me. Like I was getting up, I was so anxious in the middle of the night, I would get up and go for a run, and I'm talking 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'll just go for a run, and I would sprint almost, and it helped. It actually did help, but yeah, I'd still be really anxious, and I know my wife was a bit worried about me because I was, like I say, waking up in the middle of the night in cold sweats and getting up, pacing the house and that sort of stuff. Yeah, so it was weird, and fortunately, it's like I say, it's the middle of September now, and I feel like I'm over it. I've sort of got through it and come out the other side. But it was good in one way. Now I can appreciate when people talk about anxiety and depression. I've never really had it before. Maybe once in my life, but this was far worse. Yeah, I sort of understand it a little bit better. But what I was going to do is just give 6 pointers that I was constantly, as I am most of the time anyway, I was constantly on YouTube looking for suggestions that may help me. And I did find some good stuff. The anxiety guy was a guy on there that I found really helpful. He talks about health anxiety a lot. Yeah, he was really helpful for me. But also, I delved into a few other things that helped. And look, what I'm going to tell you now, you've heard before. I've got really nothing earth-shattering to tell you, but sometimes you don't need to be instructed. We just need to be reminded. And that's certainly what happened with me. Everything that I'm going to tell you now, I already knew, but I was just at a point in my life where I wasn't doing it. And I guess if anything good come out of the anxiety that I was feeling, it got me back on track. It got me back doing what I know I should be doing. So yeah, it had a benefit for sure. Okay, so I've got some crib notes here. I don't normally do notes, but I thought I'd better write some of this stuff down. Number 1, get your gut right. Yeah, this was something I found. Like, my diet had been really crappy in probably the last year, really. I kept meaning to improve it, and at certain times in my life I've eaten really great, but the last year I really let myself go. The diet, lots of chocolate, biscuits, all that sort of crap, lots of sugar. So what I did, I researched a good healthy diet, and what I realised, or what definitely worked for me or helped me, was getting my gut right. So a lot of fermented foods, and I'm going to do another whole video on just the fermented foods that I eat. I know this Aussie Share Trader video, but what the hell, I think this is important. and your diet is important, and having a good healthy gut is really important. So having, you know, the right bacteria in your gut. So that meant like Greek yogurt was great. I've become a lover of blue vein cheese. I make my own. I ferment my own chili garlic relish or chutney that I make, and it goes on everything now. I'm just obsessed with this chili garlic chutney, fermented. Yeah, and I've just cut out sugar. You know, sugar really is the enemy. I think we all know that, but it's really hard to give it up. But the good thing about where I was, it wasn't hard to give up, because I was just looking for something. And to be honest, I wasn't eating much at all, to be honest. Eating was tough. But yeah, I cut the sugar out, and I've pretty much been off sugar now for the last couple of months. And, you know, fingers crossed, I don't think I'll ever go back to what I was doing. Anyway, like I said, I'm going to do a whole video on my diet now. And yeah. But really, there's plenty out there, plenty of info out there about getting your gut right, because it is important. Because that's where I found the anxiety used to sit in my stomach. It used to be like a knot, and sometimes it was really, really bad. Sometimes it wasn't so bad, but you're just having a healthy gut, I think, is really important. Number 2, again, it's basic stuff, but get fit. I was probably 10 kilos overweight. I was around 89 kilos. Now I'm 79 kilos, which is about where I should be, 78 to 80, somewhere in there. And it was sort of easy to get fit because, again, I wasn't eating a lot to start with. And I wanted to exercise, because exercise actually made me feel instantly a lot better. So, yeah, I was down the gym. As I said, I was doing some weird stuff like going for runs. I was going to the gym in the middle of the night as well, just to lift heavy weights is what I wanted to do at the time. So it's basic. Just have a healthy body. So a good diet and some exercise. It just gives you the best possible chance of having a healthy mind. Number 3, get a hobby. Now this was important to me because I spent so much time not really focusing on anything, because I didn't have to, that getting a hobby, and these are two. I've got basically 2 hobbies now. One is guitar, which I've done in the past anyway. I've played guitar most of my life, so just to focus back on that. And when I was playing guitar, I was happy. So yeah, having a hobby like that. And the other one, what I did do, I went out and bought myself a motorbike. I've loved motorbikes my whole life. I had them growing up. I sold them when I sort of got married and had the kids. But what the hell, I'm back into them now. I bought myself a cruiser, and on Sundays I just go cruising, and I just love it. I love it. Honestly, when I'm on my bike, it is complete freedom. I just feel so relaxed. It's fantastic for me. And you don't have to like guitar or motorbikes, but I'm sure there's things out there that you do like doing that occupy your mind. Very important, I think. Number 4, and something that I'm really appreciative of, and they don't know how much I appreciate it, is I got a job and I'm working, which I thought I didn't want to. But since I got the job, holy shit, it's just been fabulous for me. It's 5 hours a day. It's for Aldi, A-L-D-I, Aldi. And, you know, I work in a factory. It's fairly mundane. But when I'm there, I get to focus on something again. It gives my mind something to do. And it's not about the money. It is really about my mental health. And I think working is essential. Definitely essential for me, and I think most people. You know, we dream of retiring when really it isn't what we want. Work is satisfying. Work is occupying, like I said. And this job I'm doing is quite physical, so it's helping me keep fit as well. Right now I don't go to the gym. I don't need to, because I'm spending, you know, this 5 hours, you know, doing some physical labour, and it's just enough to keep me fit. So I'm a big believer in work. And yeah, when people talk about retiring now, I think, you know, just be careful what you wish for, because maybe it sounds great, but I think there's enough evidence out there to show that when you retire, it can send you into places you don't want to go. Like I say, you've got all this time all of a sudden, and it may not be what you want. Number 5, and this may sound silly, but get some sun. I don't know if it was a coincidence or not that this period, this midlife crisis period, was during the winter, and the few days there where the sun come out and I went out walking in the sun, it made me feel a lot better. Again, I don't know, there's no scientific evidence, or mine isn't any scientific evidence, all anecdotal, just from my point of view. But the sun actually helped. I started having a vitamin D3 tablet as well, and it just seemed to make a big difference to me when the sun was out. And now, you know, the weather's starting to become nice here in Perth. Spring's here, and yeah, whether that's helped or not, or was more coincidence with all the other things that were going on, but it definitely, I know when I was out in the sun, I definitely felt good. And number 6, get some help. As I said before, my doctor was just unbelievably helpful to me. I wouldn't, maybe humoured's not the right word, but he listened, and he sort of, sometimes he pushed me in a certain direction, sometimes he just let me go, and you know, go through. Like I say, I wanted all these tests done, and against his better judgment, he sent me to get these tests done, even though he was quite confident there was nothing wrong with me. But it was just that perfect balance. So I think if you get the right help, it will make a big difference. Okay, now I probably should have said this at the start. Obviously, I'm not a doctor. I have no formal training in anything to do with mental health. So I just want to share my experience with you. I know we all, or maybe most of us, have this dream that we want to leave what we're doing and do nothing. I'm just here to warn you, perhaps it's not all that it's cracked up to be. And yeah, you do have to be careful about getting into this sort of lazy rut where you're not inspired or motivated to do anything. I think as long as you have some sort of inspiration in life, it makes a big difference. And I found myself without any inspiration, without any motivation. That's it. That's my story. I'll leave it there. If you want to talk to me, just hit me up at my email on the screen now, or on Facebook. People contact me via that. If you want to talk about where you're at, if you need to, whatever. Talk about shares. Still looking at that. No worries. Thanks for listening. Catch you guys.